Today, I'm sitting down with the powerhouse that is Veena, a serial entrepreneur and the founder of Pretty Perfect London, a thriving beauty clinic, and the founder of this podcast, Founder in the Chair. Veena's journey is one of resilience, passion, and fearless ambition. She's a true go-getter, never afraid to take risks, reinvent herself, and push boundaries of what's possible. In this episode, we dive into her business highs and lows, the mindset that keeps her driven, and the deeper why behind her success. Get ready for an inspiring conversation with a woman who truly defines what it means to be an entrepreneur. Veena, how do you feel? It's Sabrina's show takeover, and guess what? You're in the hot seat.
Well, honestly, Sabrina, if it was going to be anyone, it was going to be you. So, yeah, I'm feeling great.
I'm really excited. I feel like I've known you for a while anyways, but there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this conversation, and I got a feeling that when they're finished, they're going to feel really empowered and really inspired by your story. Come on, 52 years old, doing the levels of business that you're doing, and the fact that you have so many things going on at the same time is so inspiring. I don't want to waste time. Let's get right into it. Mm-hmm. At what point in your life did you realize that entrepreneurship is for you? And I want to go way back, because what is this about you running a sandwich business?
Do you know what? I actually forgot I did that until the other day when we were having conversation. No, when I was thinking, I need to give Sabrina a little bit of background. So when I was 13, my dad had an off-licence grocery shop right next door to, a few shops up from Hammersmith Palais. And he was like, calls me Veen. He was like, Veen, people are asking for sandwiches. And I was like, I can make them. So he was like, okay, so we need like ham and cheese and coleslaw, pickle and cheese, and a few. And there was like 5 varieties. And he said, so can you do it? And I was like, yeah. So I costed it out, what the sandwiches were going to cost me. My dad told me what he could sell them for, and it was quite a higher price because of the location.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's a good profit. So yeah, I started making the sandwiches, and my dad would take them in, and then he'd be like, oh, Veen, ham and cheese is selling better, so let's make more ham and cheese tomorrow. And I'd be like, yeah. And I was doing it about 3 times a week. So after school, I'd prep everything, and then I'd wake up early in the morning and get them made so that they were fresh, and my dad would take them in and then give me the profit. So it was great.
So you're 13 years old, you're working with dad, that's your new business partner. Mm-hmm. You're making these sandwiches, and dad's saying to you, oh my God, you've made X amount of profit. What was that feeling like at that age?
It was great. Like, it was a good little earner. And I was like, I like this. And I think that's where I got the taste of it. Like, you get something for a penny and you sell it for 5p.
Yeah.
That's entrepreneurship, right?
And was that the light bulb moment where you thought, actually, this is something I want to do? Not maybe the sandwiches, but be your own boss in the long term.
Definitely. I mean, I didn't start doing anything else after that until I was a lot older. But yeah, it was always there.
Yeah.
The sandwich business started it.
And then I know that you had a stint in the corporate world. What was that like?
So I worked for Barclays for 20 years. Heavily sales related, which I think grew my skill set, really, of how you need to be in a business as well. Because everything's sales. People shy away from sales so much. They get scared of it. They think they don't want to come across pushy, when actually, if you're a good salesperson, you don't come across pushy. And if you really understand your customer, then you're going to get it right. And it's not going to be pushy. You're just going to be serving their needs. So that job taught me so much. It really did.
And then you decided to give it all up and become a makeup artist.
No, I did it alongside.
Okay.
So while I was working there, I was a makeup artist at the weekends.
Right.
And so, yeah, I worked 7 days a week.
Okay. And at what point did you say, I want to put the corporate hustle to the side and I want to do Makeup by Veena, and this is what I want to stick to?
So it was... No, I took a career break from the bank, and I started doing Indian jewellery and saris. Mm-hmm. So I did that for 2 years before I left the bank. So I took a career break, tried it out, and it went really well. And it went really well alongside the makeup business as well, because the clientele was the same. So I did that, and then it was time to go back after the career break. And I did go back, and this was 20 years I've been in the bank now.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back, and 4 weeks later I resigned, because I just realised I couldn't work for anyone.
Yeah. You had the taste of kind of running your own show and being your own boss. What did that feel like
Amazing.
at that time?
It was an experience that I would say to everybody, just try it. Like, I was scared to go into Indian clothes and Indian jewellery, because you have some days where you sell nothing, and then you're thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? I've got all this stock. Is it ever going to sell? But you just have to trust yourself. And in those days, there was no social media. It was all word of mouth or pop-up events. So I started putting on pop-up events. And that, again, was just word of mouth to try and get people there. I mean, I'm talking about 25 years ago.
Wow.
You didn't have Facebook and Instagram.
I think it's really interesting what you just said. And let's go back a little bit, because I feel like we shouldn't just breeze past this. You said that you was working in a bank, alongside you was doing Makeup by Veena, alongside that you was selling jewellery and saris. Then you decide to do a pop-up event. Whoa. There's a lot of people that have these big, bright ideas, but they happen to sit on their hands when it comes to putting those ideas into action. What's different about you? What made you say, actually, you know what, I've got this idea, I want to put it into action?
I'm one of these people, if I get an idea, so let's say I have it in the morning.
Yeah.
If I haven't implemented some part of it by lunchtime, I'm scrapping it. That's how fast I need to do it. So if I haven't made one phone call, made one inquiry to make it happen by lunchtime, because I probably get, I don't know, about 5 ideas a week. I'm a bit slower on it now, but yeah, I am an ideas person. So if I haven't done something on that day, even if it's just to tell somebody about it, because I feel by even telling somebody about it, I've made it a little bit more real, and then I'm a little bit more accountable, and I'm going to make it happen. So yeah, so that's what it would be if...
But where does that come from? And the reason why I'm really honing into this is because people that are listening to this may have an idea. They maybe have a lost dream or goal that they've been really wanting to hit for a long time, but they haven't taken that first step. What is it that makes you say, actually, I need to make that phone call today, or I need to make that? What is that sense of urgency? How does one claim that sense of urgency for themselves?
I'm really accountable to myself. So if I'm having these ideas and then there's no sense of urgency, or I'm still sitting on that idea, then I'm just talking shit, right? Like, what are the ideas about? So, because there are people sometimes who sit on an idea for ages, and it's probably a really good idea, but just take that first step. And if it doesn't work, know when to stop.
But don't you find that, that sense of accountability a little bit scary? Like when I have to, I've had this long lost goal of, wanting to lose a few pounds. And then every time I hold myself accountable, it just instills fear in me.
You've got to be a little bit kind to yourself as well, because it's not always going to work. Or you'll start a business and then you think, actually, no, this hasn't got legs. Know when to stop and give yourself that grace. Like, okay, I tried it.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Right.
And that's okay. Because if you're like, oh my God, I'm too embarrassed now to stop. Oh my God, what are people going to think? I started this. People are going to laugh at me.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. Because if you're only accountable to yourself, then that's okay. Give yourself that grace. Like, it's all right, Veena, you tried it.
Yeah.
It worked, or it didn't work, or let's pivot. Let's change it into something else.
Yeah. I love that. Moving on to Pretty Perfect London. How did that all come about? Obviously, you've always had this love affair with makeup, which I know you said to me started very young. And you told me about your wing eyeliner story. Let's tell everyone about that story, because I think it's the cutest thing ever.
Okay, so makeup for me started in the olden days. In the Indian culture, mums would put kajal on you.
Yeah.
So my mum loved kajal. My mum loved makeup and dressing up. So I get all of that from her. So in my baby photos, you'll see me with the winged eyeliner. And I think I was from the age of 3.
Yeah.
There's some really loads of photos of me from when I was about 5 with the winged eyeliner. So as I grew up, I loved winged eyeliner. I still loved winged eyeliner, and I would never go out without it on. So that's how I think the makeup started. Was just the love and the passion. And my mum would always do these weird and wonderful hairstyles on me as well. So I started doing hair and makeup. So I definitely get it from my mum.
I have to say that every time I see you, you always look so glam. Like when you first told me that you're 52, I nearly died. I was like, are you joking? Like, you look amazing for your age.
Thank you.
Tell me about Pretty Perfect London. How was this idea born? Was it always a dream of you to have a beautiful salon that offers a variety of different treatments?
It was a natural progression, I think, from hair and makeup. So it was like, I'm in the beauty industry. I've left the bank now. I also then worked at Bupa in insurance. So then it was, okay, well, what am I going to do? I need to grow this because hair and makeup is generally at the weekends. So what am I going to do Monday to, say, Thursday, which is when it's quiet? So I started looking at other beauty treatments. What can I do as add-ons? I've got a client base who will come to me. So I started in my garage.
Wow, in your garage?
Doing beauty treatments, yes, at home. And then I approached my sister, who was working as a data analyst in the corporate world. And she had been doing beauty since she was 17, mobile. Mm-hmm. And I said to her, Shavina, let's do something. Why don't we rent a room somewhere and you start doing beauty treatments, laser hair removal, facials, and I'll do this from my garage. So we were in 2 different locations. Eventually the dream was we'd be in one, but lockdown happened. And so everything stopped. And the beauty industry was actually the last industry that was allowed to open because we were so close to people. So we were really, really hard hit. And after lockdown opened, obviously everybody needed to get treatments done. Everyone was hairy. Everyone needed facials.
I'm not going to lie. Seriously, the waxing. Ooh.
I know a lot of people were doing things at home, but I think they just wanted to get out there and treat themselves. So business boomed after lockdown. And me in my garage, my sister renting a room in a salon, it worked really, really well. And then we found a little shop in Ivor, and we managed to make that happen, started the whole fit out and everything, and it's going to be 4 years, the end of this year. It's going really well, and it was a natural progression from hair and makeup. My sister left her job. That was a bit of a drama because she loves the spreadsheet and she wanted to carry on being a data analyst. I was like, but Shavina, you can do it in the business. You can analyse the business to your heart's content and you can do as many spreadsheets as you like. And she hates me touching her spreadsheets because I tend to delete formulas and I'll be like, it's broken. It's not working. No, it's because you've deleted a formula. I'm like, oh, have I? I'm not very good at it. You've got to remember my age. I did not learn spreadsheets. We had blackboards.
Again, but going back to that whole thing of having that sense of urgency, there is loads of makeup artists out there. The next step is not to then open up this salon where you're selling a variety of different treatments. So again, you had that sense of urgency, that finger on the button that actually I want to do this. I want to talk about that journey a little bit. Going from working in your garage to now having the responsibility of this space that comes with all the costs included. What was your mindset like?
So it wasn't easy to go from working at home to a shop, the luxuries of working at home. But the overheads, you've got to really consider that. Like, we really had to do our numbers before taking on a bricks and mortar space. And then you're going to have staff. And then you're responsible for making sure the staff are earning as well. It's not just about you anymore. So honestly, it's a lot harder. It was a lot easier working from home. Sometimes you make more profit working from home as well because you don't have the licensing, the staff, the rent, the bills. Why did I do it? Because, being a makeup artist is a lot easier. It's because it was a dream to eventually semi-retire at about 55, and I didn't want to do makeup anymore so much. I still do it a little bit, but I don't do it as much because the early starts, some of the Punjabi weddings were starting 2 a.m, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, and I just got to an age where I got older and I just couldn't handle those early starts, so I needed a way out. This was a bit of a way out, even though it comes with more responsibility.
I think that's super interesting. I think it's something that we should really talk about is the way out. you're at a stage in your life, like you said, where you're thinking about semi-retiring. Ladies in their 40s or 50s would be listening to this. What would you say to them in regards to the way out and ensuring that whatever they have planned for whatever their way out is put into practice now? What advice would you give?
Plan. You really can't work forever. There's things in a woman's life, like we have chapters in our life from a young age to, it was menopause for me. And I suddenly realised that if I'm not sleeping at night, having hot flushes all night, I am not going to be my best when I turn up to do that bride's makeup at 5 a.m. That's not fair on her. So if I'm not sleeping, then I need to stop doing that, because that's not nice for the client. So I started planning. What is it going to be? So I spoke to my sister's 17 years younger than me. I told her right from the start that we're going to start this, but there's going to be a time when I'm going to leave you to it. But I will make sure you know how to completely run the business without me. I'll still be there. I'll work a little bit on the business, but you won't be able to rely on me as much as you do now. So the plan came into place, and I got divorced, and my pension was being reviewed. And that's when I started deciding, right, okay, so what do I need to do to make it enough that I can do that at 55? And you have to get professional advice. So my financial advisor said to me, well, Veena, you're going to have to do this, this, this in order to make that dream come true at 55. And I did it. I listened to him, got the right advice, and I'm not 55 yet, got a couple more years, but I'm on track. So if there are women listening in their 40s and 50s, don't be fooled that you can work till you're 60. You don't know what's going to happen to your health. I didn't know menopause for me was going to be as bad as it was. Plus, do I want to work till I'm 55? My dad had to suddenly give up work because he had renal failure and he needed a kidney transplant, but he didn't get a kidney for 2 years, so he was on dialysis. And overnight, he had to leave work. You just don't know what's going to happen. So plan. Honestly, just plan. I'm one of these people who has a countdown calendar to the day I'm going to hit 55. And I can't remember what it is exactly now, because it's 700 and something days till then. When you put it into days, it makes it so real.
And when you're looking at that app and you know you have X amount of days left, I guess that's your true motivation, right?
Absolutely.
I feel like you're such a forward thinker. You're very fearless in terms of your attitude towards business. Are you really fearless? Or is it the fact that you know who you really are and you back yourself when it comes to business decisions?
I do really know who I am, and I know what I want. And that's really important to me, because I get imposter syndrome sometimes, because you're trying to build yourself as a person, as a brand, because then it's easier to sell your other businesses. But sometimes I go on and I think, oh my God, what am I posting today? Oh my God, people are going to laugh at that, or what they're going to say. But then I have to remind myself why I'm doing it. And that keeps me going. So yes, having the countdown calendar helps, because sometimes I'm like, I know the day I'm going to get to like 500 days left, I'm going to be like, okay, I've only got 500 days left. I've got to do this. Right, what do I need to do? Do I need to concentrate on this business or this business? I try to give everything equal time. But yeah, sometimes things get in the way. But yeah, I'm going back to what I said earlier. I'm accountable to myself. So if I want that to happen, I need to get my arse in gear.
But how do you find the balance? Like, I feel like there's two types of people that are living in this world right now. It's either you're highly motivated and you have a goal and you want to hit your goal, or you're like me, YOLO. You only live once. If I want to book that holiday, I'll book it now. How do you strive to get that balance where, okay, you plan to semi-retire at 55, there's certain business goals that you want to reach, but you still want a life at the same time?
I do that. I do balance it. Whilst I say 55, I'm sort of getting then. I know people look at me and think, oh, what's she doing now? What's she doing now? But in the background, what you don't see is there's so much more balance now. I can go on holiday whenever I want to. I don't have to ask for leave. I don't have to make sure I've cooked dinner for the husband or cooked for the children. My kids are grown up. I am in a different stage of life. My children are 33 and 27. It does make it easier for me. That's not to say if my kids were younger, if you really want something and you've got a support network, you can make these things happen. And you do have to make sure that you're enjoying life right now. Because like what I said earlier is, Who knows what's going to happen by the time I'm 55? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? So balance it now.
Yeah. Going back to the business side of things, because I really want to unpick your brain. Now that I have you here, I want to take advantage of you, and I want to ensure that whoever's listening today, once they finish listening, they're like, you know what, I'm going to just do what I wanted to do for a really long time. Entrepreneurship is not for the weak. We know that. Like, if you're ready to wear 10 different hats at the same time, then entrepreneurship is for you. What's one of your biggest learnings or hardships that you've gone through, and how did you overcome it?
My biggest learning would be is know when to stop. If you have started something and you're then like, actually this isn't working, is know that you can put an end to it. It's okay. No one's going to laugh at you. No one's going to judge you. And even if they do, who cares? You need to know when to stop and try something else if that works. Or take a break. Be kind to yourself. I don't beat myself up if I've suddenly decided, oh, I can't do this anymore. It's okay, because know me, next day I'm going to wake up and have another idea. And I might think, well, okay, am I going to put this in place now or not? Entrepreneurship, yes, you're right, is not for the weak-hearted. You do have to wear so many hats. You have to be organised. You have to probably be working when everyone else is going to sleep. You're working when people are partying. I remember when I became a makeup artist, I couldn't go out at the weekends, or if I did go out, I was leaving at 9 o'clock because I needed to go to sleep, because I was going to be driving at 3 a.m. You can't have a drink because you'll technically probably be over the limit if you had that drink and then you're driving at 3 a.m. So all of a sudden people call you boring. Be okay with that. You just have to be. People might stop inviting you because they're like, oh, I'm just probably going to say no anyway. Yeah. Or you're going to turn up late to the wedding because you've just had to finish a bride and you've gone home, got changed, and then you're arriving at the wedding. And people are going to look at you and say, oh, look at her. She was just out making money. Look at her. She's just like arrived late. What does she think she is? It's okay for her to come late, is it? Well, yeah, because sorry, but you're not going to come and pay my mortgage and my bills. Yeah. I've got to do it. So
and that's the harsh reality of it, isn't it? And I feel like, especially in the Asian community that we're both part of, it's all about what others are going to say and how others are going to perceive you. And at some point, you have to be like, put that all to a side and do what's good for you. And if that means you have to miss a wedding or a function, or you have to come late or leave early, it is what it is. And that's okay.
You have to be okay with it, because people will say things to you, and sometimes they upset you when it's your own family saying, oh, look at her, you know, she's just making money, that's why she's late, and they'll laugh at you.
Have you had that happen to you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's like, oh, tell Veena a year in advance, because when I was in the makeup world, brides book a year in advance. But if you're going to give me a wedding invite 3 months before, and I've taken a bridal booking on, I'm sorry, I'm honouring that booking. I have to. That's my reputation. That's someone's big day. I'm not going to let them down. So I will be at your function, but I might be late. Eventually, people get used to that. But yeah, this talk.
And I really want to hone in on mindset. For a lot of people, it's hard to juggle different hats and really put themselves out there. What advice would you give them, especially in terms of putting yourself out there? Because you show up a lot on social media. You have a variety of different accounts. You're quite active. You're very consistent. What was it first like turning the camera on yourself?
So I actually first turned the camera on myself in lockdown when I started talking about menopause. And that was quite hard, because talking about menopause, they talk about it more now. Not then. So that was about 6 years ago that I started feeling the symptoms. So in 2020, I started talking about it. And so many women reached out to me. I'm going through that. Oh my God, is it menopause? Well, I need to get checked. And then I was like, wow, I'm helping so many people. Because, menopause is a thing. We go through this. And that was hard for me, because I remember coming on and saying, I've got really bad eczema on my eyelids. And I didn't want to show that, but I did. And then it helped people that I did do that, because they were like, well, I've got this as well. This is a remedy that worked for me. So it actually ended up helping me, because they might share something with me. Because if they don't know that you need help or how are you going to help people, or how are people going to relate to you? And that's probably how my brand started growing as well. Is I said it how it is. It's not easy every day.
Yeah. And then in terms of mindset, ensuring that, because I feel like a lot of people, when they put the camera in, so they're shy, they're scared, what are people going to think? All of that is bubbling under the surface. What would you say to those people that are thinking, you know what, I've started this new business, or I'm trying to build my brand, I want to really promote my services or my products, but I'm too scared to get on camera?
That's exactly how Founder in the Chair was actually birthed. So when I was business mentoring, the one thing that everyone said was, I don't want to get on camera. I don't want to talk about my business. It's okay, I'll just do the products, or I'll make a reel about the products that I'm selling or the services. But what I said to them is, people buy people. People buy a story. So if there's like 4 people selling candles, and yours might not be the cheapest, but if they like your story and they like ethic story behind it, or whatever it might be, they're still going to buy your candle, even if it's a little bit more expensive. So I had to be what I'm preaching. So that's why Founder in the Chair was born. And I was like, well, let's just have a conversation about your business. Tell me why it started. How did it start? What's your passion? And all you're going to have to do is look at me. You don't have to look at the cameras. And that's actually how this started, and how the mentorship started. And then I started doing content creating. Let me video you doing something. You don't have to look at the camera. But slowly they got comfortable looking at the camera. So yeah, that's how I showed up, and I knew it worked. Plus, with my sales background, I know people buy emotionally. I know people buy a story. I know in this noisy digital jungle right now, how are you going to stand out? Because there might be 10 people selling candles, or 10 people doing cakes. You're you, your face, that's you. That's going to be you showing up authentically. So it's about showing up. And the mindset, sorry, you did say about the mindset, is you've got to believe in yourself. No one else is going to believe in you. There's 100 people to put you down, but there's probably only going to be a few that are cheerleading you on.
And don't you think it's so surprising that sometimes it's your nearest and dearest that are not even clapping for you?
Yeah.
Like, I find that on I have like a bigger social media family that are clapping for my wins, and I don't even hear tickly boo from any family. And I think you just have to make peace with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Your friends and your family are probably going to be the last people to press that heart and like it. But yeah, a social media family, like you and me, we'll comment on each other's posts 100%. And be like, you know, clapping hands, well done, that's amazing, reposting. And yeah, social media is a family as well. Like, you make friends through Instagram.
Yeah, because I think it's really important to be as real and raw as possible. A lot of people assume that, okay, I've built this amazing product, now I'm going to sell thousands, I'm going to go online and everyone's going to love it, and I'm going to be an influencer and I'm going to have 1 million followers. And sometimes it just does not work out like that. Most of the time it doesn't work out like that.
It doesn't.
And you have to look at the reality for what it is, and it takes a really long time. You have an amazing following on Instagram. You've built yourself up to 12,000 followers. Well done. Congratulations. What is it that you do differently, or how do you shop every day being your true authentic self? Because I know there's so much that you showcase. Like, when I was going through your grid, I'm like, girl, you are one day in a sari, next time you're at like a pop-up event, next thing you're showing me what you're eating. Like, is this something you plan or think about, or you kind of just free flow?
I'll be honest, on my makeup page, where it's about me, it's free flow. There's no planning. If I feel like putting up that I'm having, I don't know, CMOS that day, it's going up. So where it's about me, it's whatever I'm doing that day. If I think people are going to be interested in it, and the amount of times people say to me, thank you for not gatekeeping that information. You're always ready to share it because it's going to help somebody. Why do people gatekeep? I don't know. I'm not somebody like that. So my makeup page has zero thought behind it most of the time.
That's why it's probably so good.
Yeah, the pop-up event I went to recently, and I thought, why not share other vendors? Like, I had the time to video it, and it's going to help them. And what you sometimes miss, it's called social media for a reason.
That's it.
If you collaborate with that page, you're then open to that audience as well. So if you are trying to grow your page, collaborate with them. If they don't accept your collaboration, don't be offended by it. It might not fit their grid that day, and that's okay as well. But you're then open to all of their followers. If you are trying to grow your following, do that.
Top tip.
Top tip, definitely.
You heard it here first, girls.
My other pages, there is a bit of planning.
Okay.
The business pages have a bit more planning, whatever the promotion might be. You've got to be a little bit more structured on a business page.
Yeah. In one breath, you spoke about sales, you spoke about your Instagram, you spoke about Pretty Perfect London. I'm really getting a sense of you have this true hustle grind in your blood, a mentality. Is this something that truly helps you, or is it a hindrance?
The hustle?
Yeah.
It helps me. I have a fire in my belly when I have a new idea, or my business is thriving, or my team's doing well. Yeah, so it inspires me, it grows, and the fire is definitely there.
The reason why I asked that question is because I also have that, but sometimes I feel like it's a real hindrance because I can't switch off. I don't sleep. Sometimes I'm not present in like having dinner, or I'm like maybe on my phone checking something, or maybe I've got a customer messaging. So my boundaries are blurred, and I think that's why sometimes the hustle burns me out. Have you ever felt like that?
So my word for this year actually was boundaries.
It was. We're only 3 months in.
No, I've been quite good this year. I do switch off, even though people think I'm on there all the time. I mean, there's a great system called scheduling. People think we're doing it all the time, but it's just going out in the morning, like 4 pages will have a post every morning. But it's not, I haven't woken up in the morning and done that. It was scheduled on Sunday, for example. So I normally do a lot of my scheduling on a Sunday. With regards to what you said, being present, I do get told off for that sometimes, I must admit. But I do love doing it. Like, I absolutely thrive on it. Like, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I'm really tired now. I'm falling asleep on the sofa. I go upstairs and I'm really tired. And I get in bed and I pick my phone up again. An hour later, I'm still awake. And all of a sudden, I'm not sleepy.
Yeah.
That's actually really bad, and I need to stop doing that. I need to put my phone in the other room. So yes, I'm learning to have boundaries. I am doing a lot more for myself now. Like, I'm learning to swim in my 50s.
Wow.
That takes out a lot of time out of my diary because I try not to do anything after it because I'm tired, because I'm like really trying hard and I'm knackered. So I'm doing a lot more for myself now. So I'm balancing a lot more now.
And I think it's amazing, like even at 52, so many people are going to be inspired because you don't stop. Like even now with doing the things that you're doing, there's still, I know that several times we'll get on the phone and we'll bounce ideas, and you still want to carry on. And I know you have this plan to semi-retire 55, but it's not going to happen. I know you can't stop. But I really want to talk about that energy, that drive, that even at where people, and I don't want to put women in a box or whatnot, saying what I'm about to say, but a lot of people in their 50s, maybe they tend to slow down a little bit. Maybe the kids are gone off to uni, and that's when they kind of start prioritizing themselves, and they're kind of readjusting and learning who they are. And you know, that's part of life is where people tend to slow down. But I really honestly feel like you're just getting started. Even though you have this dream that you're going to semi-retire at 55, and I don't think it's going to happen. But what keeps you going?
You just said prioritizing yourself. This is prioritizing myself because it's what I want to do. So it's still keeping me going. I'm still doing me. Doesn't matter how old I am. So for me, it's a priority. I want to do it. And I am slower. Like, I do things a lot slower in the house now. Before, I'd run up and down the stairs. I don't run up and down the stairs anymore. I do things a lot slower at my pace, at what my body can do now. You know, I'm not going to lie, being in your 50s, yeah, you do have to slow down. You're absolutely right. But for me, it's, I don't know, if I become a grandmother, maybe I'll reassess things. I'm reassessing my life all the time. And I know you're saying that I'm not going to semi-retire, but that's okay. Maybe I won't. But I can draw my pension. And I can use that because I'll tell you a story. When I worked in the bank, there were so many people who wanted to draw their pension one day. They were putting into it and they were saving their money, and one day they were going to have this great life. And it was always round about just after Christmas we would get the most reports about death.
Wow.
And, you know, the wife would come in. My husband's just passed away. He was 58. He was going to retire in 2 years, and he had all these plans, and he was saving his money, and it didn't happen. And I think that stuck in my head as well. Like, what I did in the bank was I was customer facing. I would hear real life stories, the bereavements, somebody just having a baby, they're coming in to open their baby's account, they're just getting married, they want to open a savings account, they're buying their first home, they're taking out their first life insurance, or the family's grown, they're reassessing things, bigger mortgages, bigger investments. I got to see real life, and I tell you what, when people talk about money, that is everything. As they say, money makes the world go round. Try being customer facing, and that's all you're talking about with people in their lives. I learnt so much. I am so grateful for that job, because the life experience I learned, like sometimes you would have the son coming in to report, let's say the father had passed away, and then the mum's coming in, and I'm like, but your son's already reported it. Oh, okay, so who's now got access to that account? And it was almost like the person's gone and everyone's after their money. And it was like, that's all that's left.
It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
And I learnt so much from that, from my dad getting ill, from learning those things, I remember doing an interview with a couple, and they had a young baby, and I was like, and they wanted a loan to buy a new car. And you'd do a fact find, and you talk about everything in their life, and you'd be like, well, have you thought about some sort of life cover? And they would be like, no, we just want this loan to buy the car. We can't afford the life cover. And I was like, can you afford not to have it? What if something happens to you? The main breadwinner, let's say it was the man. What if something happened to him? What would happen to your wife and your child? And they wouldn't think about these things. And I guess that's what made me who I am today, because I think about all those things, because those conversations were for me to turn around then as a personal banker in front of them and say, well, actually, I think you should think about it. Oh, no, can't afford it. Well, do you actually know how much it's going to cost? Let's do you a quick quote. And then they'd be like, oh, is that it? Okay, let's do it. I remember doing critical illness for somebody, and 2 years later, this woman came back in, and the critical illness policy was going to pay out, and she was able to pay her mortgage off because she now decided she wasn't going to work anymore, because that was the pivot moment in her life. And because she had bought that life insurance many years ago through us, she was able to then have that life. So I think it's a lot of life experience that keeps me going, and I learnt a lot. I learnt so much there.
It sounds like that the people that you were coming into the bank and you know, gaining these policies and you know, it seems like a lot of them shied away from the reality of their finances, or they didn't understand the importance of having the policies like critical illness and life insurance. Why do you think that is? Why are a lot of us shying away from the reality of our situations, and especially when it comes to finances?
Because people want to spend their money elsewhere. They want that shiny new car. They want that designer handbag. But they don't work on themselves. They don't do the things that are important. They don't think about, what if I'm not here tomorrow? What happens to my family? What happens to me? Because sometimes there's people who haven't even told their family what their wishes are going to be. And then children are squabbling over, oh no, but dad would have wanted that. No, mum said this. And leave your wishes, make a will. I know we're talking about business here, but these sort of things really annoy me when people don't do them.
Yeah.
And that's because of my background. I mean, working in a bank, customer facing for 20 years, you see a lot, you hear a lot. It's real life. And social media, whilst we show all of this, there's a whole real life behind that person. And people should stop and think, do some life admin. It's so important. My life admin, I review it every year without my financial advisor. So I'll tell you a story. When I got divorced, I didn't realise that I needed to look at my pension again. So my children were no longer dependents and I had no spouse. So what does that mean for my pension? And I didn't realise I had to put certain things in place in order for it to be left to my non-dependent children. And that's things people don't look at.
And I think that's really important because you mentioned, you went through certain life circumstances. As a woman, there's always, I feel personally, that there's more burden on us, especially when it comes to our children's welfare, what's happening in the house. You also experience life like we all do along the way, as well as running your businesses. What was that like?
Running my businesses and life.
And running life, your
Yeah.
life, going through a divorce, raising your children, discovering who you are, and still balancing your businesses.
If you're going through something major in life, slow down. I did. I took less hair and makeup bookings, even though I probably financially needed to do more. But if you're not in the right headspace, you've got to just slow it down a little bit, because otherwise you just get ill. And I did make myself ill. I had started having really bad eczema flare-ups to the point I went on steroids. I was like a junkie on steroids because I was on quite a high dosage of steroids, which they told me I'd either get really depressed or I'd get really hyper. Well, I got really hyper. I was vacuuming the house at 2 a.m. I was making prepping dinner at 4 a.m. because I just couldn't sleep. I made myself ill. And that took me a good 2 years to get weaned off the steroids, get myself back to a state where the eczema had calmed down. So I paid a price for it. So I wasn't being kind to myself because I was on this hamster wheel. Then I've got to make the money. I'm going through this situation in life. But I learned to stop and listen to what was going on, because there's no way I'm going back on steroids.
When you look back at everything that you've been through in terms of your different businesses, even life in general, do you look back and smile? Or do you look back and think, oh, I wish I did this better?
There's always going to be things in life that you wish you'd done sooner or better. But all of it's been a learn for me. Because now, when I mentor somebody or I talk to a friend, whether it's for business or just life, I feel I've got so much experience because I learnt from it all. And I think that's one of my biggest things, is I will always learn from it. Because there's certain things in life there's no way I could have done had I not learned from it. One of the craziest things I've probably done is when I became an instructor for firewalking and glass walking, breaking boards and bricks. And I did that in my 50s, but there was a moment in my life that triggered me to do that, and I learnt from that as well. And I think that was my pivot moment in life that takes me into the next stage of my life.
Life seems like it's been a lots of evolving, lots of building, lots of growing for you. Ladies in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s that are listening, what's one piece of key life advice that you would give them?
Just one piece.
Just one, like, what's your go-to? The days where you're feeling a bit tired, or you feel like, I can't do this, or it's just nothing's working out, or you need that level of motivation. What do you tell yourself?
I normally sleep on it. I'll just be like, I'll think about it tomorrow. I don't go mad thinking, right, I've got to fix this today. A lot of the times I'm trying to do things the same day, but when it's like really getting me down, I just want to think about this tomorrow. And lo and behold, normally the next day, it's just a different light. But if it was just another one piece of advice, I'd just be like, just learn from it. Stop making the same mistakes, because otherwise you're just going to be in the same place.
Yeah. And that gets you motivated and going the next day. I love that, actually, because a lot of the time we feel forced to make a decision, whatever aspect of life that you're in, but actually taking that moment, that time for yourself to kind of just sleep on it, see what comes up for you, be guided from within. I think it's important. We don't often listen to ourselves enough. We're so busy trying to gain advice from everyone else, and something happens straight away, you call, X, Y, or Z, what should I do? But really, most of the answers that you need are within yourself, which is super important. Has that level of intuition and that gut feeling helped you in business as well?
Oh, absolutely. My intuition is strong. I do follow my gut. sometimes I really want something, but my gut's telling me something different. And I've learned to stop and think, okay, why? Why is it telling me something different? And sometimes things go wrong, and at the time you're like, oh my God, that's like the worst moment of my life. And then 2 months later, you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Sometimes I'll write things down of how I'm feeling, and then I diarise it for 2 months' time, just to read back and think, okay, it had to happen. It was either there to teach me a lesson, it was either to make me pivot, or it was to just stop. Because sometimes things do go wrong. My life's not perfect.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about things going wrong, actually, because I don't want to paint a picture that everything came to you so smoothly, because you and I know that it never works out that way. Has there been anything you started and you thought to yourself, oh, I wish I didn't start that?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll start a business and then I think, oh, I don't want to do this.
So what is it? Spill the tea, girl.
When I did the saris and the Indian jewellery, it's not easy to deal with suppliers abroad. And it just got to a stage where it was growing. And then I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't be going to India. I can't be talking to these suppliers constantly and they want you to buy in bulk. And then I was just like, it needs to stop. So I just sold everything off cheap. And that was it. That was the end. I had to, even though it was doing really, really well, it was burning me out. The trips to India, all the stuff coming over, and then doing evening appointments to show the outfits to people. And then sometimes people would come, look at it, you make a big mess, and then they're like, yeah, I'll let you know. Or, no, I didn't like anything. And you're just like, oh my God. And it was eating into my evenings as well. So yeah, I stopped.
And was that easy to stop, or was it lots of sleepless nights and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to lose all this money? How did you overcome that?
It was sleepless nights for sure, because it was doing well. It was doing really well, but it wasn't serving me anymore. Because even now, people are like, are you ever going to start it again? I'm like, oh my God, please don't give me that idea. No, no, I'm not starting it again. Or sometimes people will send me a picture. 20 years on, they're still wearing that sari because they're like evergreen. And it makes me really proud, and it makes me smile that, yeah, I did do that. But no, never going back there again. And you learn from it that that's not for me anymore. I'm not folding saris and putting them on a rail, displaying them, doing pop-up events. That's not for me anymore. Pop-up events are great, but it's not for me. I'm just too tired, too old to do things like that.
How important is it to know when to stop, to, irregardless of what the circumstance or aspect that you're in, but listening to yourself and knowing deep within that voice is saying, okay, I know that even if the particular service or business that you're doing is making you money, but you don't feel fulfilled from it anymore, how easy is it to say, I'm going to chuck in the towel with this?
If you're looking at your business and you think, well, in 2 years' time, I don't think I want to do this anymore, then either start planning to stop soon, because you can't shut a business overnight. There's going to be a process to do that. But always ask yourself, what am I going to be doing in 6 months, 12 months? And if your heart's not in it anymore, stop. Because I have so many ideas, sometimes something has to stop. I don't try and do all of them. Something has to stop. And it is normally, am I losing interest? Am I losing passion? Because all my business is probably passion-led. And as soon as that passion is dwindling, I know it's time to stop.
Yeah. If you could go back, 13-year-old, was it 13 or 11-year-old Veena?
13.
13-year-old Veena, making ham and cheese sandwiches, hustling her way, thinking she's going to be the next Subway. If you could go back and you could bump into the street, or maybe 13-year-old Veena came up to you trying to sell a sandwich, what would you say to her?
I'd be like, well done. Well done. At the age of 13, for thinking outside the box, doing your maths on, is this a good business? And just doing it. Like, I used to get up and make the sandwiches before I went to school. So I used to get up 2 hours earlier, making sure they were all packed before my dad left, because my dad would leave about 7. So I was waking up extra early to do that. And yeah, I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. So you'd look her in the eye and you would say, well done.
Well done, yeah. Because I think if I didn't start that then, I wouldn't have got the taste, the feel for it, the drive for it.
I think that's really beautiful. Honestly, like, your journey is so inspiring, and it motivates me to see how much of a true hustler you are. All the different things that you're currently doing in your life, and all the bubbling ideas that you continuously have. I can honestly say that I don't feel at 55 you're going to retire. I feel like,
Sabrina, you're coming to my 55th birthday.
yeah, well, I'll definitely be there at your birthday, but it's not going to be a retirement birthday, a retirement party. It'll be a birthday, I tell you that. But honestly, I wish you all the best with all your adventures. Has been so enlightening for me, and I really, really hope that whoever is listening and is thinking about opening that business, or leveling up the brand that they currently have, or whatever it is that you've been itching to do but you haven't taken that first step, I hope after this conversation you make that call, you take that first step, because no one knows where you'll be in 5 years' time.
Mm-hmm.
And would you say the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, just because I'm planning to semi-retire, which I am, Sabrina, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So just take that first step, enjoy it, try it. If it doesn't work, that's okay too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for having me and doing a Sabrina Show takeover. I've loved it.
Thank you so much. I wouldn't have anyone else do it.